I'm a big believer in dots on a map. If you can embrace where your feet are planted, like when we got here in '09 or Coach Drew got there in '03, if I'm more concerned about winning and getting out, if I'm more concerned about that next deal, can I be the next coach at this place or that place or whatever? Like I'm never going to be any good where I am.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach at the University of North Florida, Matthew Driscoll. After being part of Coach Drew's first staff my senior year at Baylor, he became the head coach at UNF in 2009 and has won 233 games in 15 years. Coach Driscoll has led the Ospreys to 3 ASUN regular season championships in 2015, 16, and 20. They played in 2 national postseason tournaments in the NCAA in 2015 and the NIT in 2016. His teams led all NCAA Division I schools in three-pointers made in 2016 and 2020. Coach Driscoll is the winningest coach in UNF program history. He's a 3-time ASUN Coach of the Year and a 3-time NABC District 3 Coach of the Year. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's the J stand for?
Jamodi.
What is that?
Not going to take offense to that at all. It's the name of the podcast. Good start. Good start.
Hey, I thought it was like a character or something.
Jamodi stands for just a matter of doing it. It's a word I learned in 7th grade, and I've used it ever since in workouts. And so when I was thinking of doing this thing about 2 years ago, I thought, what could it be called? Jamodi Podcast. But Coach, it's okay. I still love you. Love you.
So the Jamodi part, when you said you learned where did you learn it?
I was at a camp and we were doing some type of ball handling drill, and this coach just kept saying, it's Jamodi. It's Jamodi. And we're kind of looking around like that's not a word I know or I've ever heard of. And one of the kids finally asked Coach, like, what does that mean? And the guy said, it's just a matter of doing it. And so I took that on as like a personal mantra. My workouts that I created as a player, I named them Jamodi. Jamodi grew and it became Jamodi 1, 2, and 3. And then in our program at Faith, we've used that term a lot over the years. And then when I was thinking of doing this, I just thought, man, the Jamodi Podcast, it just makes sense.
I'm glad that someone asked. And obviously that was 25 years
30
ago.
years ago. Yeah.
30 years ago. And when people a lot of people didn't ask, we never asked. But yesterday we were doing something and we have a kid that came from like a deny school, like in every passing lane and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He wasn't, no. It was a real school. You're a deny school.
Nothing is real. None of this is
true. Well, that would be Jamodi, yeah.
Defensively, a deny-only school. There it is. Their program.
So we've got him out of that. The summer helped, and then Costa Rica helped.
So you're more in gaps, open in between, or
correct? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we'd rather be underneath you and coming at you.
Yes,
as opposed because what people fail, and I'll get back to that. I think what people fail to realize sometimes is the back cut is as much of an opportunity to present uncertainty as it is as much to get a layup. Because back
and to open up a gap and to open up a double gap. Yeah,
like Princeton just they were like Princeton is, but in reality they weren't getting a ton of layups. It's just when they got them, that's what Sports Center would show, or that's where people would say, see, they embarrassed you. But in reality, it was to get you to shift or get you to drop or get 2 people to say, oh, my God, it's a back cut.
Yeah.
So yesterday we were talking about it with him specifically. We do a thing called, I like to play music, but themed music. So when we do Fast and Furious, we play Fast and Furious, and we do this thing called Man in the Mirror, kind of like a play on it, so to speak. And so like you're mirroring the ball and you're the man in the mirror. You're mirroring the ball and trying to get a kick and whatever. So we play Michael Jackson's song. Well, to go back to what transpired yesterday about the kid asking the question is, and it was pretty cool because I kept saying to him, and I just had shown this clip. You know, Brady talks about it all the time, you know, and I know Coach Prime just talked about it and he's going to get in trouble for it, you know, just that he sees how much the guys watch video and all that kind of stuff. But like I just showed a clip and I just said, what a great job by Chaz. You can see when he went to try to deflect this pass, he got in the passing lane. It forced him to be in the right position naturally. Well, anyways, this freshman yesterday, I was explaining it to him as I was allowing him to proceed through this particular movement. And you could see he started trying to deflect the pass, like denying, which I had gotten on him from day one on June 25th. And he's thinking to himself, you could just tell he was thinking to himself, like, coach just jumped to me all summer long and now he wants me to go deflect the pass. What do we? Meanwhile, I'm saying to him, when your man has the ball, try to deflect the pass so that you can be in your gap. That's what I was explaining. And so our assistant saw the same thing from his eyes. And I'm explaining it to him and I get done and he looks at him and he says, Jalen, like, coach means like the guy with the ball.
Yeah.
And Jalen's like, oh no, Jalen said to coach, he went like the coach, like, I'm not sure. Of course, that got me pissed off. I'm not sure. And the coach looked at him like Jalen, like, I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you said that. Because a lot of kids would have just said yes and then went, you know, whatever. And so I'm glad that whoever that was asked that question, just like, you know, this person asked that question as well, too. And I think it goes back to, you know, Carrie, my wife, who you know very well, obviously, works in academia here with athletes in not men's basketball. And so she's always talking about that, you know, how do you learn? You know, Harvey Thomas, how do you learn? RJ Gwen, how do you learn? You know, Aaron Bruce, how do you learn? Carl Marshall, how do you learn as you go through all these different things? And you know, I think as coaches, maybe not you because you're not quite as old. I think sometimes, you know, I need to do a better. I need to do a better job. Well, let's see. Well, 22, that'd have been 20 or 40. What are you, 43?
41. You're old, but it takes courage for players to ask questions. But what helps them, I think, to be even more courageous is when the culture is set up in a way that that's encouraged. Sure. Like, we want you to ask questions. And how you even phrase that as a coach, instead of anybody have any questions, that phrasing of it makes me think, ooh, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to have a question. But if you turn that around and you say, what are your questions? It's almost as if we're supposed to have them. Like, it's okay to have them. I think the way that we set that up for our players is important.
It's a great point. Yeah. Or, you know, saying, like, looking at all your faces, obviously there are some questions. So let's bring them, like, let's go ahead and bring them on.
Yeah.
You know? But, and conversely, which is the fine line, you're like, okay, it's week 11, you know, 6 in the summer, you know, 5 in the fall. And we pair that with boot camp, you know, so it's a very, very intensive week. We've only done it maybe the last, I don't know how many years. We didn't used to do it that way because we also didn't used to start September 25th.
Yeah.
You know, so we kind of, you know, because regular season kind of gets, or whatever you guys call, I guess, what do you call that? What I don't even know.
Preseason or pre-conference
preseason. That's it. Preseason used to be like pretty long.
Yeah.
And then you just got done doing 6 weeks in the summer. So we're really fortunate. We're usually done the last week of April, somewhere along there. Now, some teams like to keep them and go until whenever, June, whatever, have them work their camps, whatever, and then be home. We do it the other way. They get about 60 days. So they leave us for 60 days. And then they come back for 6 weeks. And they get about another 2 and some change.
What's the advantage of them being gone from you?
I think it's huge for all of us. I actually think it's probably not. And I don't probably. I know I don't. I've been doing this is our 15th season. I don't do a good enough job
Wow. How
myself.
about that?
I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
At our 15th booth camp, the very first one, we got a citation on the beach on this day. What happened was we had gone to we go to the beach and we do this run, and we can talk about boot camp later because I think people think of that word and they think of whatever, and I'm blowing my whistle, So my Chase, who's on staff now, played for us, right? He was young and he had to go to the bathroom, so he goes in this high end hotel. It's really nice. It's like when all the big time like NCAA tournament, USA Olympic teams, all that stuff. When they come to town, they stay. It's right on the water. So he goes to the bathroom. He comes back. He says, he walks up to me. He goes, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" Real quick. "Hey, what's up?" He goes, I could hear your whistle pretty clear in a hotel." Nah, you're fine. And guy comes out, and they had a wedding. They had like a sunrise wedding. Yeah. So we get done.
You just ruined their video forever because
it gets better. This black SUV, we're so used to black SUVs because of George Bush practicing on the circle up here at the Farrell Center.
Yeah.
There was a couple Crawford, and this black SUV comes through the dunes and out to the beach, and and of course, who's in charge? Everybody pointed to me. Actually, Jeff Goodman, believe it or not, was with Fox Sports back then. He actually, if you go back, you can find he put a little quibid on there. But when you think about all those different things, going back to what we were originally talking about, and about the guys and about where the guys are and about all these different nuances you want to do, I really think, Matt, even though we are getting older, there's still something to be said about, old sayings are around for a reason, and there's probably some really good to it. So I think there's probably a lot of good that we do. I think maybe a lot of the way we present it, maybe. There's a guy, you probably know him, the Florida State University coach. Do you get that email for that program?
I don't.
And I don't know the guy from Adam, and now he wants to have lunch. And the reason is he did USA basketball the other day down in Orlando, and there was hundreds of coaches, and I get a text from a guy that's there and knows me. He's like, "Hey, coach." He's like, "Hey, you made this guy's presentation." I'm like, "Oh, it's great." He said, "I'm gonna send you a picture of it." Okay. And it's a picture about nonverbal communication. And it's 55% we know is about our body language, and 35% is tone, and then barely any of it
is the words.
Yeah. And we tell our guys all, like, listen, like go in one ear out the other, just like we told you, like go in one ear out the other and just retain what's important. Like at the end of the day, like it's whatever, it ain't personal. And so there's a picture of Kevin Durant and Steve Kerr, right? Like probably was like the night they won it all. Well, whatever. And they're laughing, like walking out of a timeout, right? But then there's a picture of me just lambasting someone. Now it doesn't show who it is because the picture was more like I was turned toward the bench. So the guy sends it to me, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm like he don't know. Like he doesn't know. I said, but I appreciate it. So then I have this other picture of me, probably the guy that turned our program around. And he's a good story. He'd be wonderful for this podcast, just about what he stood for and all that stuff. But the night we won our very first championship in 2015, regular season championship, they put this picture in the front page of the paper. Pissed me off. Like we went like the first time, like anything, like we just became Division I 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I am giving it to this dude. He's 6'9", and I'm giving it to him. And I tell people this all the time, like, you have no idea what I was saying to the kid. And it was really important because we needed him on the floor. But even as a pro to this day, 9 years later, he still has a bad habit of fouling too much. And anyways, this dude, right? I send him an email and I'm like, hey, listen, bro, like I'm not against anything, yada, yada, yada. But I really would rather you use this picture because I think it correlates better with Kevin Durant because it's a coach and a player as opposed to whatever.
Yeah.
Plus, he's got the North Florida jersey on. And I'm thinking, if he's going to show all these things and put all this stuff out there, well, might as well get some juice out of it.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, bad publicity is better than no publicity, whatever. Except back when you and I were at our first meeting, that might not have been the case.
I want to push back on that theory.
I just talked about you the other day, though. I was telling someone I know what it was. I was giving the guys protein shakes after weights. And I told him, I was like, I said, this joker, like he'd get up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and scrambled eggs and cheese and eat.
Yeah.
Now, was that in your book?
I think it was. There's two versions of it now.
I know. Carrie read the second.
Yeah.
And we read the first. Yeah.
Nice. My whole idea was I understood even at that time how important nutrition was, but more than that was what I needed to do to be able to compete at that level. Because if you're not fast enough, if you're not bigger than everybody, whatever your ceiling is, a coach from Concordia in Austin, Stan Bonowitz, always talks about gassing out. Like you want your players to gas out to get to that level, have no regrets after. But to me, in the weight room, getting strong was one of those ways. So nutrition is such a big part. Well, we're doing 6 a.m. workouts and running and doing all this stuff or skill work even. And I can't go into that on an empty stomach, but I also don't want to eat 10 minutes before. And so that I can actually, so yeah, it was just 3 hours before we had to be there, getting up, eating, going back to bed. I don't know. I think now with the whole fasted idea and intermittent fasting, that probably would have helped out a little bit more if I could have done that.
Wow. One of our assistants does the intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
But, you go back a couple layers of what you were saying earlier about gassing out or doing these different things and whatnot. And you yourself. And that's where, like, we've had our greatest success. Well, Coach Drew, when we took Lace Darius, I think I'm the only one, but maybe not, who didn't want him. And like everything in life, like you can't just say, no, I don't want him. Like, okay, so why? Why?
Yeah.
And you're like, Tweety and Henry and Curtis, like we're about ready to be like really special. And man, I don't know, like I don't know what that's gonna do to the locker room. So I had all those kind of things, But at the end of the day, as Coach Drew said, Driscoll's all about having players. And then once you get them, figure out, how you're gonna make that work. He averaged 14 a game, never started a game, came off the bench, had 41 night, 36 against Texas Tech, and helps lead us to the NCAA tournament. And so it goes back to guys like you and why we've had so much success and why that's always in my brain. Our last two, let me make sure I got that right. Yeah. Our last two 1,600 point scores, they're 15 and change, whatever, 15 and some change scores, whatever. Fact check me. Our last two were both like fringe Division I, like about ready to go Division II kind of guys. But it goes back to what you said. We know it's not going to happen because it's all human nature and God gives us free will. And because of free will, that's why athletics is the way it is. Because if everybody did it the way you just said, then your team would be at the utmost, right?
Yeah. I was amazed over, even though it was 20 years ago, over that time of how many guys, some guys like it, some guys love it, some guys live it. And I thought that when you got to that Division I level,
Sounds like Cold. Sounds like
Cool
Cold
stuff. That's where I get all my information is from ice cream. But I think I thought that everybody would live it. And then you get there and you realize, man, some of these dudes barely like it, but they're just so gifted. And that's where I do love the idea of taking some guys that maybe just have more of a grinder's mentality, are going to outwork, want to just be a part of something special. Because on the days where other dudes were just liking it and I was living it, I always felt like, okay, this is the equalizer. This is where I can steal their time. And but to your point, not everybody at that level loves it or lives it, but that's why you guys are so great. Those coaches that are able to bring a group together that have different motivations, but make them all work for the common good, try to get the best out of them. I think you do that better than anybody.
Thank you. Well, go back to what you just said about the living it part, right? And so, like, when you think about that, the other day we showed them a blibbed. It was just an Inky Johnson. And if you know anything about him, you know his story. Oh, it's amazing. Well, Coach Drew had kind of sent it out that morning in a thread to the tree, and I hit him back, and I'm like, you know, I didn't watch. It was 32 minutes. I'm like, absolutely amazing. I was really blessed. Like one of the first times he ever did it professionally, he did it on our floor.
Oh wow!
Because this guy who ended up, he's a longtime friend. He started his company when I got here. So we kind of like paralleled each other, right? And he brought him in because he's a Tennessee grad and he loves Tennessee. And he basically gave his testimony, right? But in it, he talked about exactly what you just said. And about how, and this is what I shared with the guys. And like, you guys say all this stuff during recruiting. We say stuff during recruiting. But you guys, and I told him, you say all this stuff during recruiting, but I want you to listen to what he says in this one moment. And he's basically saying, like, you know, after your wife wears off, or after your girlfriend wears off, or after your profession wears off, whatever that looks like. So that he called it that mood, you know, once that mood is no longer there, right? So what are you going to do? How are you going to grind? How are you going to make it special every day? How are you going to understand that what you said has to equate to what you're actually physically doing? You know, Proverbs, and obviously because of a state school, we do things in a varying of ways. And at the very bottom there, this is our theme this year, and it says work.
Yeah.
Now I've said that for 15 years, but at the end of it, the other 3 words, that's more than 3 words, 5 words. At the end, the other words say mere talk leads to poverty. And that's what we were trying to explain to those guys. And that's what Inky was saying, that, just, why he was who he was, and the compassion, the passion, when you grow up and play the way he played as a senior, to have that one play give him a debilitation that it could not allow him to whatever. And so, and then the other thing too, which I love, Matt, and I'm trying to just regurgitate is probably a better word. I don't want to regurgitate, but reverberate some of the things that you're saying. Because the other day, like, I spoke to this group of about 100 students in FCA, and I played them some NF, and I played them some King and Country, and I didn't play them for the music, so to speak, but I played the lyrics. And I think sometimes, but going back to regrets, I can remember, like if our first championship team guys, if a guy walked in and you said, what's the song you dislike the most? they never hear it because it's a Christian song. A lot of guys don't listen to K-Love, but Matthew West's song "The Motions," and you're just
Yeah.
you're going through the motions. You're going through the motions, and I played that on repeat for like an hour and 30-minute practice at Austin P. And but what's great, Matt, is about 5 years ago, one of them dudes was driving through Orlando and sent me a picture, and it was his radio. And
Nice.
he's like, "Coach, like," and I thought to myself, "That's awesome." But what's more awesome is that you're letting some of that stuff pour into you, some of those words. But you look at, I tell those, you just look at all these different things, like this song "Burn the Ships" from King and Country.
I'm sure I've heard it, but
you have "Burn the Ships," "Cut the Ties," "Wave Goodbye." It's been "Step into a New Day." So we were kind of struggling. We're like 27-9 the last 5 years in February, and if you take out COVID, where we had no home games, we're 26-6. So we hit this patch. So that song was big time. So I play the lyrics and talk about it. That was it, whatever. But like a year and a half later, for whatever reason, I'm like, I either heard them or something. I'm like, we never really see why people write, like the new Toby Mac song "Faithfully," about his son killing himself, and about, I think it's what it's about. And then it's about, he stayed faithful. But you go back to that song, and what happened was, first of all, I asked the students, I'm like, does anybody know what it means to burn the ships? And they're like, everybody was like, and this one kid raised his hand. He's like, yeah, that means that wherever you are, you're not going to go back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, because it's really not, I guess it's really not taught anymore. It's not a history thing or whatever. And the song was written because he was in Austin, Texas, doing a concert, and his wife called him, and it was her third child. And she's like, you got to get home. And then what happened was, she was having some kind of a thing, and a doctor prescribed some medicine, and she started taking more and more and more and more and more and more of the medicine, and she became addicted. And so it was affecting, obviously, a lot, including the baby. And so he went home and he took her somewhere, whatever, because in the song it says, "Flush the pills." But if you don't see those words and you just hear the song, you probably don't even hear, because I don't even think I ever heard it until I saw the lyrics. And I was like, oh, "Flush the pills. What's that?" And so I think you can use things to either, present them or show them. We showed following Inky, we showed a really quick Brady deal as well too. And basically it was a Brady thing. It was like a minute, 12 seconds or something. And he was talking about basically seizing the opportunity. And he was really pissed off because he only used to get 2 reps of practice. But what the guys didn't hear, Matt, is 3 times he said, "Greg told me." He said it 3 times. "Greg told me. Greg told me to do this. Greg told me if I do this. Greg told me." So at the end of practice, right, we hit that day, right? And I kind of recap whatever. And I said, "Hey, just out of curiosity, there was something, I'm not, like, I think most of you probably missed this." And so we talked about it. Nobody got it, and like, I'm like, if you don't trust what we're trying to share with you, if you don't trust what we've already put in the books.
Yeah, because you're the Greg in their lives, right? Right.
And like, well, I think it's better. Like, we have a transfer. Like, he's just so, what do you call that, Matt? When not regimented, but he's just so.
That's what I was thinking. Regimented or yeah.
Yeah, his habits.
Yeah.
Are from a different system.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not his fault. He's had to do it for 4 years.
Yeah.
But in reality, too, on the flip side, here's why we do it. Here's why we're really special at it. And here's the analytics that kind of fit into it. But at some point, like Saban says, you just got to do what we're asking you to do. Like, there's no debate. There's no talk. Like, this is what we're doing. Like, you can't debate everything. And So he'll be a good lawyer someday. But anyways, I just think guys like you, if like Lincoln said, I'll be prepared, perhaps my chance will come. Well, if you don't do what you did, and let's say that stud, whoever that is, has decided to have a bad day or take it, whatever that, I don't believe in that. But let's say he does, and that's when you are able to. Now, what frustrates, I think, a lot of guys is if the coach doesn't reward it or the coach doesn't.
Right.
It's a tough balance.
Well, but one of the special things I think, and maybe ideas of like the purest type of work or a purest motivation is to do something without the reward. Like how much am I going to work without a guaranteed reward at the end? And I think those are maybe one thing I've really taken away from this already is I think there's just a few guys out there that are master motivators. Like they're able just to pull things from music, from videos. It sounds like you do that really well, because I think too many times coaches, we have our eyes down and we're only using maybe just the quotes or the stories from our own life. Nothing wrong with that. But we don't have our eyes up to see what's out there right now, whether in music or in media or these sports heroes or figures that we can pull from and try to connect the lessons we're trying to teach our players, connect it to something bigger. From like you put Tom Brady in take a video of him and he's echoing the same things that you want. That makes your message that much more powerful. And I think it sounds like you just do an amazing job with that.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
There's a really good 1-minute clip with Kobe and Saban. And when we started using it, we're like, just so y'all know, like you could argue whatever you want to argue. I'm not worried about LeBron. I don't want to worry about like all-time greatest, period. And they're having this conversation, and basically it was about, and we talk about this, and we talk about this through our theme, and we talk about it specifically when we talk about in Ephesians, right? In this book that I love to read, it's got 66 chapters. And it says that your attitudes and your thoughts must all be constantly changing for the better. The power of your thoughts has tremendous ability to shape your life for good or for bad. And Kobe talks about it specifically with editing your life. And he's speaking with Saban, and he's like, yeah, everybody was telling me like I should be starting and I should be playing. And he said, eventually I literally had to say to him, like, shut up. Like, you're not at practice. You're like, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you're not helping me. And so he talked about editing your life and how in the preseason, like I got to edit my life. Like, I wasn't doing that in the summer, but I got to do it now because I got to play less video games. Bo Beach, again, going back to the guy I was telling you about getting into him. He was in bed during the week. He was in bed at 10:30. And he had a great life. He had a great college life. He had a girlfriend. He got his degree. He, unfortunately, was a little bit better at Texas Hold'em than I liked. But my point is, it wasn't like he lived in a cave.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't have to. Like we got a kid on our team right now. He probably could be president of the student body if he keeps going the way he's going. We had a kid that graduated, Al Farouk Aminu, was an 8th pick in the draft right behind Epe. And we're sitting back here taking pictures at the NBA draft in 2010. And I give this little 13-year-old kid a hug, and he ends up being one of the greatest players ever played for us. I never saw him again until we started. I couldn't even tell you who he was, but I also officiated his wedding.
Nice.
And officiated, I think, 8 players now. But my point is, Kobe just talked about, like, there's certain times and certain things like we just have to change certain things that we do.
Yeah.
And well, we have to get up earlier for boot camp. Go up earlier. This isn't rocket science. And that's our theme, by the way. Right. So it's not rocket science. I've been saying that forever. But so we decided to turn it into a theme. All the themes are up on it's funny. We started themes and we started winning. So great correlation between those two things.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if there's but some of the guys.
Well, can I jump in? I think Jordan, it has a good flow. Jordan Peterson has a great talk about your aim and how everybody has to have an aim. And when kids don't have something they're aiming for, that's when they end up wasting their time, that their day gets away from them. When you have an aim, then your life starts to turn and revolve around what that aim is. And I think so for players, just like a great example of that is your aim is to be the best basketball player. All right, well, look at your day and see how does that aim actually line up with what your day looks like with your example of 6 a.m. workouts, get to bed earlier because that's your aim. But then I think we have to do, and you probably do a great job of this. I know Coach Drew does. And being at Grapevine Faith Christian School, we're mandated to make sure that the ultimate aim is in place, which is our relationship with Christ. Because you talked about the story a little bit. I think where I got in trouble was my aim was just basketball. And when basketball was tough or in a bad spot, man, I found a new aim, and it was that party scene. Well, when our aim is in the right person and not a human being or per se, like a relationship here, because if your aim is in your girlfriend or even your spouse, well, that person is, they're not perfect. And if they let you down, if they make a mistake, does that jar your entire existence? So I think one is getting our players to have the right aim for basketball in the right context, but then also having something bigger. But I like that idea of when you have something, like that's what you see players that say that they want to be great, but their aim is showing something different because of the way their day lines up, their priorities. I think that's a good reminder for them.
Well, everybody wants to be a pro, right? And like, so to go along what you said, we do this thing with them, and there's this, it's a salary and hours spent chart, right? And it's like if you get a regular job, like I think 55,000 is a college right now, right? 39,000 is teacher salary in the state, right? So I just went with 45. And if you go overseas and you make 35 tax free, yada, yada, yada. So I do this whole chart, right? And you end up with $33 a day if you're a normal person working, making 45 grand. But that doesn't count like food and clothes and bathroom bakeries and all. And I probably was probably not as, $1,000 for housing. It's probably low. But the most important part is that hours part, right? I had like sleeping, going to class, studying, eating, athletics, just those 5 things. I gave them 140 hours for the week. So at the end of the day, there's 28 hours left in the week. Well, 28 divided by 7 is 4 hours a day. Well, what are you doing? And I started asking them. I said, let's give me some things. Like, what are you doing? Well, I'm taking a nap. No, you already took a nap. I got the nap in there.
Sleep's done. Sleep's done.
I'm a big nap guy. Like I make sure they have them on their calendar or whatever. No, I got nap in there. So you're okay about the nap. Get something else. Of course, video and girl and hanging out with the guys and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, and that's where, like the Bo Beach. And I think that really helped Dallas, who become the greatest scorer in Division I basketball in the state of Florida. I think because of Bo, and now it's been kind of that culture has been passed along, guys understand. And I'm a big believer in like activity and achievement are 2 different things. And a lot of guys that run their mouth, they're active, right? We got a kid, and the coach told me from a Power 5 school, and he said, Coach, I'm just telling you, he's hurt all the time. And I said, okay, why is that? He's in the gym too much. When he thought, I'm punching the clock. I'm punching the clock. I'm on, he wasn't on social media, but like them dudes are like,
Sure.
I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Guess what? And so we gave him these 30-minute plans, and it basically was about 200 makes. Now you got to be able to shoot it, to get it knocked out. And he could get it done in 24 minutes, 27 minutes, whatever. He's one of the greatest shooters that ever played here, and I was able to officiate his wedding too. And he's got an incredible. So he came from a very, very, very well-off family, and so he went back and he wants to give back to those that can't have what he has. So it's like a combination of both. I just preached for the first time on Sunday. He's done some Thursdays, but like when he was in school, he was like married. He was doing like 5 different individual kids a week where he was meeting with them and helping them understand. And like, obviously 4.0 student and Arthur Ashe Award winner. And he made heirs, he made some heirs, but it goes back to what we said earlier. I preached in July, and he's in the audience, and I did the NF song Search. And in the song, there's a part that talks about when you're a kid and you take a bath and you take your toy and you hold it under the water and you let it go and it comes up. And in that song, it talks about, and they come out of nowhere like an evil surprise, and it hovers over you to tell you millions of lies. And basically, it's everything you suppressed inside you. It just keeps coming up and coming up. And it either leads you to, whatever. And Coach Kennan says it all the time. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So like who you surround yourself with will also, Matt, help you maybe not get in those different scenarios as well too, right? And so JT, he was already married. We married him in May. He goes to, hears me preach in July. In August, we go to Puerto Rico for a foreign tour. And while we're there, he's just walking around, and he's like with a couple of his, guys, and two of the guys are really love the Lord. And JT is unbelievable. He did a great job preaching. And so they basically convinced him, like, I got to go. So he went and got help, and he spent I didn't know it at the time. He comes back like August 25th, the first, he like, Coach, where you at? I got to come see you. Like I got to, I'm like, okay, yeah, come on. And so like, he was so like, he was 7 years old when it happened. So he's had it since he was 7 years old. He's 22 now at this time, so 15 years he's been suppressing this deal. Right. And he got done. I'm like, hey, let me ask you a question, bro. Like, what was the big deal? Like what, at the end of the day, like, what was your end goal of this? Like, he's like, Coach, I want to be a great husband, and I want to be an amazing father. And he's like, I knew if I allowed this to continue, that as I got older, sometimes I think it might be a little bit even more easy to stray whatever way you're going to stray, because you got a lot more either resources or whatever.
Yeah.
And and
less
so
accountability. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay. And what's great is we ended up getting done. I say, let me ask you a question. Would you mind like doing this for the paper? Like, would you talk to the paper about this? And so they did a front page spread about him and about this particular scenario. And we did it for the right reasons. Next thing you know, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people. It doesn't matter. We're just emailing and reaching out and like, man, I'm going through this, or I've gone through this, or so God was able to you utilize these different, but my point is, it goes back to like, all these different things that we hear and different things that go on. I had a guy come up to me who was a student fan that had kind of come through our program that we befriended, over the years. And he heard me speak at the same church. I don't think it was the same night. I think it was a different night. And I had talked about, everybody talks about alcohol and meth and all that kind of stuff, but, pornography in and of itself, I started going into this, whatever. And he reached out to me and he's like, Coach, I felt like you were talking to me. And so he was able to get help, and he was able to overcome that that vice, so to speak. And so I think sometimes, this goes back probably 15, 20 minutes ago when we were talking. I think what's important about what you did and what more have to do is, and here's how we say it. I'm a big believer in dots on a map. It's a huge thing of what every time I speak. When I just spoke the other day, I'm speaking at this. I'm the keynote speaker at this men's retreat at this really just church, whatever.
Nice.
And they want me to. It's basically about balance of life, and which I was awful at. I'm still not great at it. But anyways, here's what we say. Like, if you can embrace where your feet are planted, like when we got here in 09, or Coach Drew got there in 03, however you want to, paraphrase it or do whatever. Like, if I'm more concerned about winning and getting out, if I'm more concerned about that next deal, can I be the next coach at this place or that place or whatever? Like, I'm never going to be any good where I am. Like, there's no chance. And that's what I wish more kids can understand when they look at us or they look at our program and they see, like, if you just embrace, everything else will take care of itself. So here's how we say it. It's really critical. Dots on the map are so critical to embrace where your feet are planted, but with a genuine purpose. And then the golden rule we change. So embrace where your feet are planted with a genuine purpose, treating others the way you want to be treated. But what my daddy says, or my daddy used to say, not the way they're treating you. So don't forget, like, it's great that treat others the way you want to be treated. But in reality, it's really treat others amazingly, no matter what. Just, and you don't have to break bread with them, and you don't have to go to lunch with them, and you don't have to do anything with them. But you could just be respectful and agree to disagree. And if it wasn't for that bar called Kelly's in Minneapolis, you and I aren't having this conversation because, but if I don't do what, again, earlier what we talked about, saving, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Shai said, you got to get on the assistant coaches committee. All right. Why? Because that's what you got to do. Well, long story short, I do. But as good as God is, it puts me literally across the table from Coach. And Coach knew that Coach Drew was going to retire. And so I thought he was Bryce. So I'm sitting there like, man, I'm sitting across from Bryce Drew, man. And I don't even know if I said anything. I don't even know if I even said something to make him think one way or the other.
Yeah.
But that's what I was thinking. And at the end of the meeting, like, it goes back to embrace where your feet are planted. Well, I walk in, I got papers and charts and graphs, and we're going to change this rule, and how can we get this rule better? But in reality, everybody was there because back then you could get your tickets early if you were on a committee. And if you got your tickets early, you could scalp them faster. And if you scalped them faster, you could get a better bang for your buck than when the market saturated by the time everybody else got there.
Wow.
Right? But nobody's gonna say that's accurate, but I'm just telling you that's the reality. So I'm there, and I'm like, and I'm really I'm really disgruntled to begin with that we're in the basement of a bar. In my brain, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, we're trying to make this game better. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So we get done, and Coach says, "Hey, I'm gonna resign from being the first vice president because about going back, whatever. Does anybody want to do it? And I had just gotten on the committee, and I'm just sitting there, nobody. And Coach Drew said, "Hey, I think this guy, I think Coach should do it." And that's how I got on the committee. And that was I think it was 01, whenever the Minneapolis, I should know this because it's important. It's important, but I think it was 01. And then we get fired in 03. And when we get fired, Coach was his first year at Valpo.
Yep.
They went to the NIT. So we get fired on it's a Monday. We get fired on Monday, whatever they call that, Black Monday or whatever. So we get fired on a Monday, right? But back then, you knew who the Monday night NIT game was. They told you in advance so you could travel on Sunday, yada, yada, yada. So Coach Scheid says, "Hey, Driscoll, do me a favor. You clean up my office because I ain't coming to clean up my office." I said, "Yeah, no problem, Coach. I'll clean it." So as I'm walking the boxes out to the car, back and forth and back and forth, I got this huge picture window in front of my office. My office was right on the street of Clemson. And inside it, my TV was playing, and it was the NIT game. And it was Valpo at Iowa. And I'm walking by and I'm watching the game. I didn't even correlate that Coach Drew Sadek. I got 2 kids. I got a house. But in 2 Thessalonians, I believe Coach Tang taught me that. I believe it's 3:6 through 13. It talks about we can't just lay idle. God, God will do it. God will do it. I love God. Well, guess what? Work brings profit. So I'm walking by and I'm seeing this box, right? Well, you don't know this and you should know this, but if you do, you're unbelievable. Well, that year, that March after we got fired, Dick Bennett got the Washington State job. And when Dick Bennett got the Washington State job, Coach Drew's assistant, Mike Heidelman, who was Dick Bennett's kumbaya, was with Scott for 1 year, left Scott and went to Washington State with Tony. And when he did, their AD said to Scott, you got to hire an old guy. You got to hire an older guy. And so because of all that, and then just because of that one meeting, that's the only time I ever met him. I was able to, it's just, and again, it's
that's
all
the
about
dots, right? That's the dots on the map.
You who taught me that? You're going to love it. Mr. Allison. Do you remember him? His
Who's
name's
that?
up on football. He was a big supporter of ours. His name's up on the football facility. I believe I think he even wrote a book. I think he made most of his money from oil. Jay Allison. He went to Baylor because his girlfriend was going to Baylor. He walked into Grant, what's his name? The football guy, Taff or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Coach Taff.
He's like, "Hey, I'd like to, whatever, be a walk-on or whatever." And I think he was a lineman of some kind. He ended up being like a 3-year Southwest Conference all league player, yada, yada, yada. But one night, 10:30 at night, we're at the Exxon where the subway was, and I'm coming back in the office and I'm stopping to get a coffee. And I turned down the aisle and there he was in jeans and I'm like, "Jay, what are you doing? Why?" And that's the night that he taught me. He called it stars on a map, because how they star.
That's right.
And he called it. He said, I just spoke to the business school, yada, yada, yada. And that's what he called it. So from that moment on, it kind of resonated with me. And then I've turned it into to dots on a map. But because of that moment, I was able to, get hooked up with Coach. And then I was 39.
39. Yeah.
See, 03. I would have.
You're the oldest person on our staff at 39.
Yeah, no, 38. 30.
38,
I turned 39 that year.
Yeah.
But that's why I got the job, because his AD said you got to hire somebody old.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here.
You know what's crazy is I just told the story the other day. So I get to Valpo, whatever, and so I still have to go home and pack the house and move, whatever. And there's a bunch of really good stories about that. But I get to the office, and so at this point, and you know me well, but you might not know me from this perspective. I'd rather do things. I'd rather have the least amount of movement and get the most done, as opposed to having to go. That's why I've always lived super close. Baylor was the furthest I've ever lived from any coaching job in my life. But it didn't matter back then because we were there all the time anyways.
Yeah.
But so I was at Valparaiso and coach said, "Hey, I got a room for you." As a matter of fact, I sent the key back to him about 5-6 years ago. I used to carry it in that book that I like to read. I said to coach, and coach is like, "Hey, I got a room for you." And it's great because he's a great poker player. It's back when, Texas Hold'em was just getting started in 03. Your World Series of Poker was big, it was just kind of coming along, He's like, "You're great." And he goes to the Chicago to play. So he's never there at night. And he's got a bedroom for you. Yeah, it's free. Just, whatever. I said, "Coach, I really appreciate that. But like, there's no sense in me driving 7 minutes to be by myself. Like that doesn't make any sense. I'm good." So I kept my bags in the locker room and I slept. If you remember the Seinfeld when he worked for the Yankees and he slept under
under the desk. Yeah.
So I slept under my desk every night. But here's the greatest part, Matt. This is how you and I began our life. This is how you and I kind of started to what's the word? Subliminally. It just this is how you and I started. And so every night, if you remember back then, this is 03, I was sitting there and I would lay on the ground and I had a TV up in the corner. And I would lay there and I'd watch ESPN from 11 to 12. And then at 12 was the Iron Chef. And I would flip it to the Food Channel. I put on the Iron Chef and I'd always end up falling asleep. And the Iron Chef, you remember, he had that, it used to, you don't remember this, but this lid used to come up with their secret ingredients and all this fog would come up, It was a big deal, right? However, if you remember back then, that was June. So there we are in June, right? So you know where I'm going with this now. So every night I'm laying on the floor and I'm watching Baylor. And I'm watching Baylor. And I'm watching Baylor. Every single night I'm watching Baylor. And like the sign, I don't know if you remember it. Remember the sign that said, it was real small. If you came to where the flags were in the Farrell, on the left, so our offices were on that corner.
Yep.
On the left was a small sign that said men's basketball offices.
Mm-hmm.
And USA Today put a picture of it one time, but you would see it as like B-roll, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've told this story, like it was like embedded in my brain. Like it was embedded in my brain. And like, it was like when we got the job, I was like, man, I'm going to go like, and I know that sounds quirky.
Well, I wonder how many people like you were watching all of that stuff unfold, watching the news, but instead of looking at it as like, man, I'm wondering if that's one day a place where I could be, or I'm not saying that's exactly what you thought, but I would imagine most people saw that and go like, golly, thankful I'm not there, and thankful I don't have to go through that. And then
professional suicide.
Who is going to take that? I think that's
suicide.
Yeah.
And you're watching, you're like, oh my goodness, these, as coaches, these other dudes, like these poor kids, like this is brutal. And you're going through it.
Yeah.
And so what's crazy is when we interviewed for the job at Valpo, a couple things that really spurred me about Coach was, number one, he had a desire. Would you call it an aim?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
An aim. Yep.
He had an aim, and we all know that if you throw darts or you throw hatchets, right, your biggest bang for your buck is the center, right? So you got to build the center and build out, right? He had an aim. Like he told me, he's like, yeah, I want to be a Power 5, or I don't think he said Power 5, high major. I'd like to be a high major coach someday. And in my brain, I'm thinking I'm 38. I just was at Clemson for 5 years and 2 championships. Maryland won 1, Duke won 1. And so like the ACC was like big time. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, like he's not just satisfied. Like I'm taking over for my dad. I'm going to stay here for 30 years. Not that they're bad with that. And I actually was kind of excited because
maybe the stability in that,
stability,
yeah.
And even though you're not making the same kind of money, so to speak, it didn't matter because like everything else in life, you got to take the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows, and then you just got to make things happen the way they're going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he said that to me during the interview, I thought, that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that was really important when he interviewed me was he was so like inquisitive. Like he wanted to know, like, and you know how coaches, like he wanted to know so much stuff. You know, he's the one that taught me the saying that, you know, it's always better to get information than give, and always understand that information is your number one commodity, right? And so like he was like, you know, bam, 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 bam. And you think like, how does all this translate to what you're doing, how you're doing it, and the way in which you're going about it? And I told Coach in the interview, I said, Coach, listen, because I am older and I have been around, I do have some people. And so I really think it'd be in our best interest if we go to the pumps clinic in California. And you'll love this. The title of the clinic, and I was able to go only because Coach Shyatt and Coach Duncan were really close with the Pump Brothers. And so that's the only reason why they let me go. Hey, man, look, man, some schmuck go to that, you know, just. But the clinic is called It's All About Relationships. It's all about relationships. And I tell another story, which we're going 50 million directions, but there's another story about, and we tell our guys this all the time, like, it's okay to disagree. It's not okay to burn a bridge.
That's good.
And Coach Moon is a good example. When we got to Wyoming, he wanted me to stay and be the assistant. He was going to pay Kerry a ton of money to be the cheerleading coach. I was going to stay with Steve McLean and be his assistant. And I'm like, Coach, I'm going to the ACC. Like, I'm not staying. Like, I'm going to the ACC. And he was furious. This was in 1998. Furious, Matt. Well, guess who the AD was that hired me at the University of North Florida in 2009? Same guy. So dots on a map. But it's also what you do with them. So I said, Coach, you got to go with this, right? And so we went, and there's a lot of good stories about it. But one of the ones that's as important is it was the weekend of August 8th, 9th, and 10th. Let me make sure. 2003, yeah. It was the weekend of August 8th, 9th, and 10th. Does that ring a bell? That's when the news broke.
That Coach Drew was coming?
No.
That's what?
When the news broke that A-Bar had recorded that.
Was it that late? I thought that was in June, but yeah.
No. It was August. Yeah. It was. So we got there, and like I'm telling Coach, you'd be you'd be amazing for this. And so met with a head on. Well, before that, so we're sitting there, and John Wooden's going to speak, and we're sitting there, and it's Coach. No, let's see, let me get it right. Yeah, I think it's Coach, Tim Floyd, and me, or it's me, Tim Floyd, and Coach. Whatever. And Wooden's going to speak. But I think Ben Howland just got done, and Wooden's going to speak. And Coach Tim Floyd says, "No, remember now, dots on the map. It's all about relationships." Well, who did Tim Floyd coach? Bryce Drew. So so we're kicking it and talking. And he said, man, Baylor, like, blah, 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 blah. And Tim Floyd says, yeah, I can help you. And Coach is like, how's that? And he said, my college roommate is married to Kim Mulkey. And so, like, all that stuff started presenting itself. And so it just, yeah, that's the thing that really impressed me about Coach is that, you know, Coach was always about that aim.
Yeah.
But
man, it must have happened pretty quick. If that weekend is when A-Bar, all that stuff came out, or you guys moved pretty fast after that.
I think it was August 6th is when the thing came out.
Yeah.
We were at Pumps that weekend, and then we did the press conference on, let's see, that's Sunday. So that'd be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, the 21st. However, it got shut down when we thought it was rolling. it got shut down. And then it came back.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is crazy because they something went awry. And then we got coached to Chicago, and then we came down. And it's it's just there's, and then of course we all met at the baseball facility on the mound.
They won't even let us meet in the gym. Like,
well, that's because
we're so bad. We don't.
So we landed the plane. We landed the plane, and Marlene, yeah, Marlene, I believe, wonderful human being, and she's like, "There's our hangar right over there." And in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, why aren't we going to the hangar?" And she goes, "You see all them cars over there? That's all the media and all that kind of. We're going down there." And we jumped in her black SUV. And side note, Bryce and I were really hungry, and Kelly was pregnant with Mackenzie. We didn't know. I had put all my bags in the toilet, on the plane, and she had to go to the bathroom, the whole time. I didn't know she was pregnant. I wouldn't have put my bags there. Poor thing had to fly the whole way. But Bryce and I, she's like, "You guys need anything, whatever." We stayed at the Hilton. And do you need anything, whatever? And Bryce and I, we'd like to grab a bite real quick. So we went to Denny's, and then she took us to the Bears.
Nice.
And it was like 1:45-ish. I remember it like it was yesterday, something like that. And so that means it was 1:45. So I guess it was 1:45 where Carrie was too in Valpo. I guess the same time frame. It might have been 2:45. I can't remember if there was a time difference. And I'm like, "Man, you ain't gonna believe 1:45. They got live bears. You ain't gonna believe." So because it was obviously with children, it makes that transition a little bit different. But that's how it started. Matt, that's how laying underneath the desk and looking up and seeing that, and of course you and I, spent so much time together, And but it goes back to what you said before, like, are you aligning with that, with the way you're aligning with your perception? Is that your reality? And that's where now I didn't know until you wrote the book. I didn't know because you never had shared that. We had come to your wedding, and it's the first time I ever had Maggiano's.
It was a good meal. It was a good meal.
But yeah, I'm with you. I understand that. But my point is, like, but you just don't know, and it's unfortunate.
But let me say this, because you've mentioned this a few times about the player that you have sharing some things and how those other people then he connected with them. I think when you're in those moments, you just don't see how there could possibly be any good. How could God use this, what we're going through right now? And it's fair. Like, I think it's fair that young people 100%. Or anybody that's struggling, they can't see it then. But when you look back and you see those dots on the map, you see how God can use any of those tough times we go through, any of the tragedies. That's why John MacArthur, one of my favorite pastors, when people ask him, why do bad things happen to good people, he quickly responds with, first of all, there's no good people. I don't care how in the word you are, there's no good people. But after that, everything that happens in this world is for his glory. Well, how can you say that about these huge tragedies? It's for his glory, because everything can be ultimately worked out for our good. That doesn't mean it's the way we wanted it. So I wanted to play on and no offense to our team that year, we were 8-21. We were incredibly successful for what we had. My senior year. That year with you, we were at 8-21.
No, it said 17 on the back of the door, didn't it? Or did it say 15? Remember the number we put on the back of the door?
Well, we had a goal. Remember that? Yeah, we didn't hit that goal. We didn't hit that goal.
We thought to ourselves, man, we can't make that.
Coach Drew wanted to get one more win than we had the year before. But what I wanted to tell him when he had that, I want to raise my hand. I said, yeah, but we had future NBA players on that team. And in the Big 12, we couldn't even win 15 games. So like, I knew what we were walking into, and not that you guys didn't, obviously. I knew my teammates didn't know, my younger teammates who were walk-ons, or Carl Marshall, who just got there. Like, you guys don't understand what Kansas is about to bring, what this is, what Oklahoma with Kelvin Sampson is about to, but all that to say, it's,
praise God, Texas A&M.
That was, yeah, we got them, but it's like, yeah, it took 2 overtimes the second time, but that wasn't my plan. Like, I didn't want to be a part of that team. I wanted to be a part of the one I thought I was going to have, which is, we're going to be a top 25 team. We're going to finish top 4 in the Big 12. Like, we're going to make a deep run.
Roberts, Lucas,
yeah, Tom, and then all of us were going to be seniors that were role players. But looking back now, man, I see the why, and I understand it's for His glory. And it doesn't mean that I obviously, like, I did a lot of things wrong and made a lot of bad choices, but thankfully, by the grace of God, being able to realize that and see it. But I think that's the thing. Like, why do bad things happen? It's because His glory can be shown through those.
It also goes back to what we said earlier too, is free will. At the end of the day, that's what every day is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about decisions. I was telling you at the bottom of that thing we talked about with Kobe, the way we say it is, your attitude inspires your actions, which produce results. And all results, doesn't matter what you do, all results create some kind of a consequence.
Yep.
And when I speak about it, I was like, y'all know what the water cycle is. It's the same thing. Your attitude is a water cycle. It's going to give you an action. It's going to give you a result. It's going to give you a consequence. And after the consequence, new attitude. 10% what happens to you, 9% how you react, period. Like I was talking about, and I know this is kind of a different deal, but it goes back to what you're saying, your actions and all those kind of things. I can't remember who it was, and we shouldn't say his name, but I remember you had a problem with a roommate on the road, and I didn't understand that. Yeah, it just like, are you kidding me? Like, whatever. And I didn't correlate what that meant to your actions and the way they were trying to line up with your aim, which was trying to line up with us doing well and whatever that looked like. But the other day, when I had the last 1,600-point score and his fiance, I'm going to officiate their wedding in June at the house before he left to go to Poland to play pro, we had that same, we were just talking about funny stories and different stuff. And he was terrible against Florida State. He was terrible. And he had just met his now fiance's parents for the first time. And I mean, I was pissed. I'm like, you've got to be better than this. You've got to be more like I don't care about our parents, not in a bad way. You've got to be more accountable. You've got to be, whatever that coaches stuff, whatever. But he never told me.
Yeah.
Until he never even told me, like, later on, we wanted, that team won a championship. Like, he never even told me that. Like, it would have been a good time to kind of laugh about it or joke about it. But like, sometimes we want to be that person, but then there's those other factors that come into play. And then how do you deal with those factors? And what do you do with those factors? And they're taking you out of your alignment. And then where do you step up as a player? Where do you step up as a leader? Where do you step up as a man and say, no, like, this ain't working. And so I think that's where a lot of teams, that have that word potential, what is it really? At the end of the day, the teams that win championships are the best teams that can overcome adversity, period. Those are the teams that, like Davion was talking about it the other day, about Jared. And you could say it's really not adversity, but it is adversity. Like, Jared could have been the biggest pig in the world and could have just done his thing and try to become this dude, that dude, and everything, but he allowed others to do what they do, and therefore everybody. Like Coach Evans, one of our assistants, calls it Bubbalicious for everybody. I don't know if you remember Bubbalicious to go.
Oh, yeah.
Bubbalicious for everybody is what he calls it. But, Davion was talking about that the other day, that if Jared would have been more the other way, and now you get those two guys, and you know what happens with friction, there's fire. And so I think the teams that can overcome those particular deals and put their self aside, and our champion, we won 3 championships in 9 years, like, and the third one was a completely different team in 4 years, which is hard to do. But when you do that, like, dudes are they're just so they're just at a different level of not only as players but really as people, like their role or who I am. And we say it like you say it, I'm sure, at the end of the day, be all league in your role. Like, when I was an assistant, and I'll proudly say it, I was one of the best in the country. It's not even close. And it wasn't because of any kind of intelligence. It was just because, like, that's what I wanted to be. That's who I wanted to be. And I wanted to do everything I could as an assistant, not worrying about whatever was next. And I was very fortunate because Kerry helped. Of course, I wanted to become a head coach and all those kind of things. Everybody.
But you weren't looking beyond where you are as something that, it's kind of funny. It's like, I don't think people realize or players especially, how much they can control what happens to them in the future by maximizing what they're doing in the moment.
That's another thing that Brady talked about. We actually talked about it this morning on the beach on the last day. So they're all themed. And today was road win day. And then we talked about, let's talk about the road. We have 7 new guys. Let's talk about the road. Like, what's the road? They went through the normal stuff. But you know what they didn't talk about, Matt? What you and I just talked about. I did. Now, nobody knows what you and I are talking about, but
yeah,
I did. I said, well, let me ask you a question. When you go to bed every night, who's in your room? Who's in your room? Who's in your room? Oh, you guys all got your own suites with a bathroom and all that, all that stuff that you never had. But, like, guess what happens when you're on the road? Like, flush early, flush often. Like,
yeah,
make sure you have and that's why, Charlie to this day, he'll tell you, Coach Melton, he'll tell you, like, Driscoll's, and I didn't do it purposefully, but, like, I showered, I got dressed, I was out of the room early. Like, that's just how I was. I was going and getting candy and Swedish fish and whatever it is I could get when guys were coming down and whatever. Like, that was just me. And sometimes I think it bothered Kerry, and sometimes I think it might have bothered, somebody else at whatever. But I wanted to make sure, like, the bus was going to be there and we had the gear and it wasn't like I was harping on people.
No, but your level of care was really high. Yeah.
But my point is, like, just like you were saying, like, sometimes you get thrown off though. And if you can't get pulled back in, and I just, it's just, and I don't want to say, well, it's life. It's whatever, because it is. But in the same breath,
as a coach, I think we have to acknowledge when our players are going through something that is real to them. Like, because that's not a big deal to us. Maybe what they're going through isn't a big deal to us, being older, understanding that they're going to be able to get through this and they'll be just fine. But it is big to them. But at the same time, having the balance of also helping them to get through that adversity in an appropriate way. Like, not to piss and moan and be upset and let it ruin their day, but then also to acknowledge that, yeah, I get how you feel and this is real, what you're going through right now. I think that's maybe where we kind of take the coaching hat and we put a little bit more of the psychologist hat on and help them through that situation. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association including a 40-shot Ballology skills assessment. Please visit ballology.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team.
One of our young guys stopped in, and Coach and I were talking with him and said, hey, just out of curiosity, what do you think one of the main things that we wanted to get through with Boot? What do you think one of the main deals is? And he whatever, getting better can be whatever. And then we're like, at the end of the day, for you to be whoever you want to be as a husband, if you want to be whoever you want to be as a father, if you want to be whoever you want to be as a person in society that's going to have a real job and have to have real scenarios, like there's going to be so much uncomfortability in your life that you are not going to understand it. You are not going to understand it.
Yeah.
However, if you have the ability to recognize that and to fight through some things that have been presented to you. And I said, at the end of the day, that's like what we want at the end of boot camp. We want you to feel like you really, really accomplished something, and like you've really like I did that. Yeah. I was like, there's only like 1% of the people in America that can do what you just did. Not athletes. Any athlete could do it, but
most people never will.
No, but now how do you take that and not say this? Man, okay, that one's done. Man, we're good. No. And that's the talk will be this afternoon.
Yeah.
Like them things up there, when you pointed them things right there, like everybody's trying to cut down the Mets on March 10th. Like no one cares about what you've done or who you are. And actually, most people think like you ain't got no chance because your one guard went to South Florida and your other guard went to Oklahoma State. Probably have been the best mid-major guard combination in America. But what are you going to do? 10% what happens, 9% how he reacts. We did. We went out and got you. You know why? Because you said this is what you wanted. You said you were going to do this. This is what you said. So now all the shine's gone or the mood's gone, as Inky said. So the grind is the grind. And that's the thing. Like people love that word. NF's got a great song about the grind. Like people love all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the last time I saw him in 2021 was at Daly's in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people. I'm going to see him in May downtown at the ViStar Arena in front of 16,000 people.
Yeah. Because
the grind is the grind. Like anything worth having, it's going to like average is nothing. Like average means nothing. Kerry says it all the time. Like normal's a setting on a washing machine. Like there is no normal. Like to be here, and we tell the guys like at the end of the day, like our job is to make you the best version of you we can make you based on what we understand, and you understand. And if we do that, the byproduct is we win. Like that ain't bad. Why do you do this and why we pour into them, and then them dudes become, we call them pro swoopers, right? They we have these balls out there with all these dudes that are, like
I like
so
that.
now they're like, realizing exactly what they want. Now, some of them don't want, JT didn't want to do it. Trent, 5th best shooter in America, back-to-back years. He didn't want to play. Like, I coach, I'm not into that. But you know what? I'm going to work every day. I'm going to get my shots every day. I'm going to get my body right every day. He did all these things, and he never wanted to play. And that goes back to what you were saying about loving it, living it, and liking it. Like, he was living it. Like, he was living it like, this is what I want to do. I want to be the best shooter in America. And
Coach,
so,
no,
it's just, as coaches, you just pray so hard that these dudes can continue to just figure it out. And then you start seeing it, right? Like Will came to practice the other day. One of our first guys, his first guy we ever went to see when we got the job, right? There's a leadership book that the class on campus uses, and they asked Carrie and I to write a chapter in it. And one of the chapters is about him.
Oh, wow.
And basically him coming in my office and saying, I want to play more. And me telling him, nah, you're a little late for that. You know, and you might as well, you want to quit, go ahead and quit. You might as well do this, that, and the other. And his high school team, he brought his high school team, and we kind of went through that, right? But like, he was like you, like he was going to like be passionate about what he did and do it, but he wasn't as good as Brian Holmes. He was better. Brian was better than he was. Mm-hmm. Brian got hurt. And then next thing you know, we're at Maryland, right? We lose by 8. It was an unbelievable game. Gary Williams is cussing these dudes out like it's nobody's business, and I get a technical. Anyways, but anyways, Will goes on to play that year like maybe 17 minutes a game, and then his next 2 years he becomes all-time leader in assists for a short time. But still, he could have quit, mm-hmm. And that's where you're concerned, right? Garrett Sams, who's at Baylor now. Have you met Garrett yet?
No.
Garrett's a GA at Baylor. You'll meet him. He played for us, 1,600-point scorer. Amazing human being. He's a way better person. Long story short, he came in my office. He was the second runner-up to the freshman of the year. The freshman of the year was also on the same team, and they were all part of our last championship team. And that was Wajid Aminu, the kid I told you, 13 years old, I met him, which wasn't a violation. All I did was hug him. And Garrett comes in the office and says, Coach, he's lived 12 hours away, you know, was homesick all year. That's another great story. Anyways, long story short, he's done. And I said, listen, Garrett, like, we love you, man. Like, if you want to leave, like, we get it. Can I help? Can I call some schools? Would you do that? Yeah, of course I would. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm like, if you don't want to, I don't want you here. So nobody wants him because nobody got scouted. Like Belmont was like, man, we missed on him, yada, yada, yada. And again, we beat a Division II to get him. He was just one of them dudes. Shoot the living dog out of it. From deep to tough too. Anyways, 6'7" guard. He's unbelievable. So there was about a month span. We're bringing in recruits. We're having workouts. He's giving the guys drink after the workouts. He tells the kid that took his scholarship, you got to come here. You got to sign. These guys are the best. All that. Spring break comes in between that month. How you get into the airport? No, I don't know. I got you. The whole way there. Not a single word uttered. Nothing except, what are you going to do? What are you going to see? Where are you going to eat? What are you most excited about? Whatever. It's only like 20 minutes. Comes back, right? In the meanwhile, the great player that I told you about that we should circle back to at some point, but we haven't yet, he played in the G League, which is another story that goes back to that picture. He was playing in the G League. He made it, he was like the sensation of the Summer League that year. He was incredible. I'm sorry, the year before that. He was the sensation of the Summer League that prior summer to Garrett playing. And unfortunately, he was like they lost in a championship game, and Mark Jones was all about him, and because his last name was Beach. His name's Bo Beach. So, I mean, how perfect is that for going to North Florida? Anyways, he plays for the Brooklyn Nets team, and All-Star break, which is like February, which is, right before our finals, he tears his ACL. He goes through all that stuff, whatever. So he's here doing his rehab. While he's doing his rehab, he's running into Garrett. He's seeing Garrett, and they all know each other, obviously, because of our culture.
Yeah.
Talking. I'm transferring, whatever. I don't know anything that's going on. All I know is Garrett's leaving. I don't even know him and Bo were talking in the training. I just know he's leaving. It's now finals week. It's the last weekend before finals. And at the end of finals, he's gone. Bo, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday before finals start on Monday. I'm out in AAU. That's that April AAU recruiting period. Mm-hmm. And Bo is coming in to do rehab. He texts Garrett, "Hey, bro, where you at?" He says, "I'm at the library." He says, "Cool. I'm going to come over and say goodbye because I'm obviously we may not see each other again for a while. I want to say goodbye and yada, yada, yada." So Bo gets done with his treatment, goes over, and he looks at Garrett and he's like, "Man, you look awful, bro. You must have an unbelievable test." He's like, "Nah, not really." He's like, "Man, I'm making a big mistake." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, I shouldn't be going. Like, I should be here. Like, these guys, they love me and like Papa, all that stuff." And Bo's like, "Call coach." He's like, I can't call. He already used a scout. Bro, just call coach. So he calls me. "Hey, G, what's up?" "Hey, coach, I've been thinking, hey, listen, G, look, I'm literally right in it. I got to stay on this game. Like, this dude, like, we got to have this dude. Like, listen, I'm going to call you as soon as I get out." So I hang up, call him back. "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Coach, I really think this, that, and here." I said, "Hey, G, listen, let me get home. Tomorrow morning, I'll pick you up. We'll go to Waffle House. We'll get breakfast. Let's talk." So we do. I don't know, 3 hours, let's say we talk. We get done. I said, "Listen, G, we ain't got scholarship for you. Like, we can't take you. So you're going to have to go. However, if this guy on Tuesday says no, then that might change things. But I'm not calling this kid and telling him the scholarship's done. Like, that I'm not doing. That's not right. Like, we're way too far down the road. We love you, and you're going to make us really special, but we're way too far. That's not fair. That's not fair. Coach, I understand that. I understand. So the kid calls me on Tuesday. Praise God, he picked the other school. Like, it was like this, Matt. Seriously, it was like this. "Hey, I'm not going to say his name. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, coach, I've decided that I'm going to go to." "Hey, that's awesome. Congratulations. Good luck to you." Okay. And like hung up. And I'm like, G, hey, coach, hey. No. And he comes back and leads us to our last championship, scores 1,600 points. But the greatest thing, and maybe it doesn't come to fruition, like, I think he might have met his wife. And if he doesn't come back, I mean, obviously, it's free will. Doesn't mean God, if he don't left, whatever.
Yeah. Well, how big was that conversation that Bo had with him over at the library? I mean, that's a God moment right there, where it didn't have to happen, and obviously it's Bo's decision, but God used that. That's huge.
But it also shows you guys like you, when you're good people and you care about people, some people that aren't like that conversation would have never occurred.
Yeah.
Because they'd have been like, whatever.
Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the Jamodi Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them one rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information. Well, but I do want to go through the speed round with you.
What is that?
The speed round. These are quick questions. I feel like I know
thought
you.
You said Speedo.
I'm gonna send you a Speedo, and then you have to take a picture. This podcast just took a really weird turn there.
I could go with the Duke swim team. Isn't that the guys who do it? Isn't that like a 30 for 30 or something?
Oh yeah. I want to keep this podcast going, so that's not in the thing. But these are quick questions. First thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out. You ready?
Hold on a second. Yeah, I had to drink some tea there.
There you go. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, Oreo. Cookies and cream. Easy.
Nice. The greatest shooter of all time?
Hold on a second. Can you rephrase the question?
Greatest shooter of all time.
I've coached or I've seen, or like be more.
Let's just go. You've seen, and it could be somebody you coached, but I mean, it'd be hard to. I know you didn't coach Curry. It's hard to discount him in that role, but it's also, I mean, it's different for everybody.
Ray Allen.
Yeah. What do you think made him like the best?
His preparation and his ability to have the same exact shot every single time. And if you do the homework on it, the one he made in Miami, falling away into the corner,
Yeah.
but if you show the same exact shot from other like one mores and different passes, if you show 20 of those shots, it was the same shot. It just happened to be coming from a completely
Crazy
different
angle. Yeah.
and the clock was, all those kind of things. But
he had done that shot before. It wasn't like that was something lucky.
Allen,
yeah.
And when you look at Stephen Curry, really, he's such an amazing shot maker from so many variant of ways. Ray Allen, if you remember, was never the guy with the ball in his hand.
That's right. He was more like Klay Thompson in a way. A lot more is created for him. Catch and shoot with such speed. Yeah.
I heard this. You'll like this. Coaches went to Coach Scheidt's clinic at Florida. The corner shot was always talked about in our profession. Why is it the best shot in basketball? And everybody always says the same thing because it's the shortest. Even in college, it's short, right? It's 21, 7 and 7/8. It's 22, 1 3/4. Everywhere else, whatever. It's 22 in the league. It's, 20, 23 and change. So it's the shortest. Everybody used to always say that. But this guy said this, and you'll like this. It's not only the shortest, but it's also the most it's the most catch and shoot shot that there is in basketball. Because there's nowhere to go. Like you literally have nowhere to go. Like it's catch and shoot, catch and shoot, catch it. And the other one is it's as least contested a shot as any 3-point shot in basketball. So like last year, I did a clinic the other day on Zoom. I don't have it in front of me. It's on one of my Zoom things. I think we shot like 47% from one corner and 43 from the other. Like it's just uncontested because think about that. Elbows and blocks.
Yep.
Those guys are rotating out, from a pretty far place. And if you get people in the rotations because of that back cut, right? You got that back cut, that Princeton dribble at, and maybe you just got to throw behind. It's just a long way to go. So I thought that was interesting.
I do love that.
Ray Allen is just if you watch his preparation, and we tell our guys this, Matt, and think about this your own self. Parker Smith is in the Hall of Fame. Like one of our assistants, he used to say he's a better shooter when dudes are draped on him, fouling him, and all that stuff than he is when he's wide open, licking his finger and checking the wind. And right, so what we try to teach guys and try to communicate to guys is there's no such thing as two different shots. Like every single shot, opened or contested. And that's why we've led the country and made threes 2 years, two of our championship years, 2 of the last 6 years or whatever it was. Last year, if you'd have counted the game, they didn't count. We were fourth, but we would have been second and made threes. But like we really try to be permanent pivot foot, and we really try to be same shot, same rhythm, same rhythm. Well, Coach, it doesn't matter if you're open, it's a different shot. So you're going to stay after practice and make, 100 of those and then 100 of those. Like, so that's something that we do. And that's what I respected about Ray Allen. Not that I disrespect anybody else, but to answer your question, that's what I think was, made him a little bit different.
Best basketball movie of all time.
Movie. So it's hard not to say Hoosiers because of Coach. And I actually was in Greensboro College when it came out, and when I saw it, shout out to Scott Groninger. He brought me over the house or something, or I don't remember. But it was something to do with him and Hoosiers. It's hard to say that one, but I have referenced One-on-One, which you've probably never seen, or you have seen.
I haven't seen it, but so many coaches have mentioned that, and it's not an age thing, but older coaches.
Up yours with a red hot poker is one of the famous scenes. And basically it's about a kid that was great, but once you get to college, everybody's great.
Yep.
and the coach, I think, and the other day I showed Coach Evans a clip from Fast Break. I don't know if you remember. Fast Break was with Kaplan. Is his name Gabe Kaplan, or what was the guy from Welcome Back, Kotter? And Bernard King was in it.
Huh.
And there was a comedian in it. He's Coach. What was that famous comedian's name in Fast Break? Anyways, there was a famous comedian in it as well too. It was about a guy who Gabe Kaplan became the coach, or Gabe Carter, whatever his name is, became the coach, and he went and got all these different pieces and put them together, and they ended up beating the UCLA of the show. Yeah, people that no one said blue chips. I hope
few people have.
Okay,
Few people have.
Yeah, people like that John Deere with that little bag over there with
That's right.
Yeah.
Texting or talking.
Texting.
Does Florida high school basketball, do they have a shot clock?
That's not a speed question, right?
Well, no, I'm just asking them, do they have
Let's go backwards to the texting or talking.
Okay.
I am probably the worst texter in the world. Pretty close. And my guys would make fun of me all the time. But the other day, I was texting our head of officials, and I was asking them about tenths on the clock, because it's a rule this year. And I asked them if it had a correlation between, does the shot clock have to have it as well? And if it does, because I was out there doing all this testing and all this stuff. And I sent him this text, and he said to me, Coach, I don't understand what you're asking me. And back, and I read it, and I'm like, so our players know, and I tell our guys, if I text you something and it doesn't make sense, just say to me, Coach, don't say yes or thumbs up or whatever. Like, say to me, like, Coach, this makes sense. So texting, I just wish I was better at it. Shot clock, no. Georgia, yes.
Okay, so the question is, for high school, because Texas doesn't have one, for high school basketball, shot clock or no shot clock? That
was easy.
My goddaughter gave me that.
Nice.
First championship in 2014.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I don't even think I've changed the batteries.
What's your favorite holiday?
Is your anniversary a holiday?
Sure. I think so. Yeah. You better say that now that you said it.
No, I mean, probably if I really thought about it, it probably would be Thanksgiving. Probably Thanksgiving. It's funny. You don't realize, how, and apparently this is a great book, by the way. Have you read
Redeeming Your Time? No.
Jordan Rayner is big time, allegedly. So, I think it's a New York bestseller.
I love it. I put a list together of all the books that coaches mention or talk about. And
I'm glad you said mention, because I told the guy when he gave it to, I'm not going to read this. Like, I don't read books. I'm not a reader.
Yeah.
I don't disrespect to you. Coach read it and gave me the Cliff Notes. Carrie read your other one, and
it's okay.
I can't imagine to show you how many pictures she took that she was sending me. She does these arrows. And she arrows it, and she got all these arrows coming. I'm like, I've never read Coach's book, even though I'm in there, whatever.
You are, yeah.
But what was I telling you?
About that book, you're not going to read it. Yeah.
No. What were we just talking about? You got me completely whacked out about reading and not reading. A lot of coaches.
Favorite holiday.
Thanksgiving. So Chase, we're on the road a lot because we bring in so much money. So we're usually, like this year, we're playing LSU the day after Thanksgiving. So usually that's a money game. And so we spend a lot of days, on the road. And so you always talk, what are you thankful for? And, those kind of good things. And Chase, my oldest, when he played for us, when he was a freshman, and it's hurtful. That's why I brought the book up, and it talks about balance and all that kind of stuff when he said it, but he didn't mean it. But he's like, it's nice to spend Thanksgiving with my father. And I'm up there in the front of the thing, and I'm half emotional and then I'm half pissed off. You know what I mean? And I'm like, gee, Merry Christmas. So, but I think, this is going to sound odd to you, but I'm not a, I'm just I'm just an odd kind of a person. If I get an opportunity, I want to be with Carrie. And I say this, and it's not a joke, but like, there's a lot of times she doesn't want to be with me, not in the sense that she doesn't want to be with me, but like, she's got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to utilize, maybe I got an opportunity to be with her. And she's like, well, like, that's great, but
it's good for your schedule, but it's not necessarily good for her schedule. Yeah.
But this is even during the, May, June, July.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm not and not that there's anything wrong with it, because there's not. I'm not a golfer. I'm not, coach is obviously a great fisherman. I'm not a drink guy. And so
I don't have a lot of hobbies. I do like to work out, even though it feels like I'm getting injured more and more. But my favorite thing to do is to hang out with Jana. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, like, she, especially because our jobs align really well. She's in education as well, so we have the same days off. We have all this, but there are, like, I have a lot of friends, especially from kind of a previous life, that I still know and talk to, but they still do things with each other. And I just found that life is pretty simple now. It's revolved around the game. And when it's not, it's revolved around family. And I'm good with that.
Yeah. So it's funny you said that. So a guy just came in town that I grew up with. And he came into golf. And I said to Carrie, I'm like, he asked if, do I want to go get a drink with him tonight or whatever? And I probably shouldn't have said it the way I said it in the text, but I'm like, I basically, like, I said, like, I don't drink.
You didn't have to drink with him. I mean, you could just go with him. Yeah.
That's what he said. That's exactly,
I mean, come on, coach. Like, go have a water. Like,
he said, I can show you the text. He said, Driscoll, you can have a soda or water.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I thought to myself, you idiot. Like, why would you say that? Of course,
well, but
I think I might have said, I don't drink, but I'd love to spend some time. I think I might have said something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think he just read, I don't drink. And like, I was whatever. Anyways. So that it is what that is or whatever. But I don't know. So when holidays and all those things, it's like, if I can be with Carrie and be around her and whatever that looks like.
This is a question. You're up 3 on defense with 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
So 2011, and this is where you, as an assistant or as a scout, right? We did it 4 games in a row and won all 4 games. And I tell our guys, like, you would think these people,
you fouled.
Yes. Oh yeah. We've always done that.
Yeah.
Now, every once in a while, there's a scenario. For instance, Florida Gulf Coast at home one year, it was a side OB. We were fouling the catch because they were going full court. And so when they threw the ball, we actually deflected it out of bounds in front of their bench, which means now when they did it, whoever caught it was going to shoot it. So we couldn't. So at that point, we had to change our philosophy.
Yeah.
Which is a rarity. I still do. I'll always do it. Good or bad, whatever. I'm just telling you information. I've been a special situations guy. I've spoken a gazillion times about it because I did it one time, and I still use a lot of the clips that you've seen. I've tried to get away from the grainial things and tried to get into some better video, but
yeah,
I mean, still Bryce Drew dribbling up with 1 dribble per second, and we don't call timeout until it's below 4, and Bryce gets the miss and drives full court and throws that runner in against somebody at home and runs off the floor, book out. and Gray. Was it Drew Lavender? Maybe he went against Kansas State. He went coach. You know what else I still show? Remember when Kansas State, when the guy caught the ball and started walking in the tournament and doing this to the crowd, and they called travel. And Colorado took the ball out on the side and they banked in a 3 to win. I still show that. I still show that clip every single year.
Yeah.
And so, I don't even know how did we get on special situation. Oh, foul 3. So, and I show Texas when they filed AC law.
Yeah.
And then I show now, because I've been here 15 years, now I show us.
Oh, your clips, yeah.
Just us, doing it and
Yeah.
running those full court stuff. And us being successful and not successful of getting it, or Northwestern tips it. And so the other guy had, practice that, right? Dallas was wide open. We might have been able to tie it, but Bebe had to chuck it up and turn it, because when the guy tipped it, the clock started. So you coach through those things, and you try so hard, to do those things. And then in the reality of it, it becomes a little bit difficult. And the Northwestern not probably is the game in 2014 that, in our eyes as coaches looking back, was the game that we knew this team was special, because we lost, should have beat them. Number 14, whatever his name was, made a pull up from like 12 feet. But our guys, the first time our guys, because I know you know a little bit about our program or whatever, but we always play 6 to 7 money games a year. And we never won any, we're just getting crushed, right? And so this particular group was better, and then that happened, and they were so upset. And Chris Davenport, I'll never forget, was crying, not like that way, but he was crying. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, we gave this game away. It was one of those kind of cries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. And so I can't remember the exact date of that game. Let's say it was definitely in November, because on December, I can't read it because I'd have to walk. Purdue. Anyways, December something 6th or something like that, we beat Purdue at Purdue, and we were down 7 under the last media, and under a minute to go, we were up 7. But my point is, that's when I knew that this group was turning. Just from talent was always there, not always. Talent was there,
yeah.
But you got to have that. You got to have that separator. We tell our guys all the time, when talent's equal, character's going to separate you. But you got to have that ability, And that was the game, that Northwestern game.
Two more.
Yes, foul.
2 more. Name a bucket list item you still need to do.
I don't have one. I just don't have those things. I probably need to.
Favorite place to travel?
Italy.
Nice.
It was. We literally were just talking about this the other day. We keep trying to go somewhere else, but it keeps coming back to Italy. Bucket list. Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer.
That's fair. You can always pass. Last one. Well, I'm going to ask you this one because you're such an energetic person. If you have caffeine throughout the day, I already know the answer, but I'll ask it for anybody else. If you're having caffeine, how do you take it?
Throughout the day?
Yeah. Is it coffee only, or you got sodas too? I know you do your Dunkin' Donuts. I know.
No. Yeah. These things, I don't say they're for caffeine, so to speak, but those things.
Oh, the mints. Yeah.
Well, I'll before practice, I'll always take one of those, but but I'm a big vitamin C guy. Like I'll
Yeah.
take these out to practice.
Yeah.
But I know this has got, and I don't do it because it's got a lot of sugar, but probably do subliminal. I went to one Dunkin'. I only do one Dunkin' a day.
How do you drink it?
3 cream, 6 Splenda extra large, 24 ounce. Yeah.
Wow.
This is, I do, I don't know if you can say it's tea. So that's what I make out of that back there.
Okay.
This tea coming out of there.
So you have a lot of different modes that you're, throughout the day.
I guess, yeah. I'm not,
Yeah.
no. And I'm a big water guy.
Yeah.
But no sodas. Just a Splenda.
Yeah.
Would be the deal.
Last one in basketball, as far as players go, who is the GOAT? Which I don't think you like that question.
Doesn't matter, Jordan. Doesn't matter. I just in any sport, in any profession, actually, who's the GOAT of business? Is it Buffett? Is it Bezos? Is it Musk? Is it what's his name? Zuckerbucker? Is it like you know what I mean? You can go down the list and do whatever you want to do. But the thing
why do you say Jordan?
The reason why I think Jordan is, and I think what's hard is you say, well, eras.
Sure.
But eras are what they are. And you can't say if Michael was playing now, it would be yada, yada, yada. I think the reason why he's the greatest is because the way he had to play, when he had to play, the way he had to play, elevated his game, elevated who he was, took his natural competitiveness to a level that is super scary.
Mm-hmm.
He would play nowadays, that might not ever come to fruition.
Yeah, he might not be driven to reach that level.
Beat up and beat down, and
that's a good point.
He might be on 5 different teams and floating around, but he was like, and that just continually just more and more and more. So, and you hear the stories now because of the Last Dance,
mm-hmm.
the real stories about that in and of itself. So I don't know if this era or the era when Sam Jones, 10-time champion Sam Jones from the Boston Celtics, who passed away, unfortunately. I'm going to tell you a quick funny story about that. He lived here. And he befriended me and yada, yada, yada. And he passed away, right? So we're up in Boston, right? And we're, so remember I told you Wajid, let me see if I can show you. That's Wajid, right there. So there's Wajid. And so that's Al Farouk's brother, right? And, so we're up marrying Wajid and we get done. So we go to, have you ever heard of Gloucester? Gloucester? Gloucester. I might be saying it wrong. You ever watch the show Wicked Tuna?
No.
Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Wicked Tuna?
I have not heard of Wicked Tuna.
Okay. Anyways, it's like one of the National Geo. It's like one that it's basically dudes out fishing for tuna.
Okay.
Like that one show.
Not a big fish guy, fishing
yeah, me
guy.
Either.
So
I'm not a Wicked Tuna guy until, anyways, we go to Gloucester. Forget Wicked Tuna. That's another part of the story. It was, so we leave and we got a flight. So on the way to the airport, I wanted to ride along the coast, and we went by this town called Salem, Massachusetts. Have you heard of Salem?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it's known for?
Well, the witch trials. Is that the same place?
So I can't make this up. This comes from the I can't make it up file. We park the car, we get out, and we're going to walk to downtown, grab a sandwich, see what this whole place is about. And it was like, it was very, very, there's a lot of people. So it was very active. I get a text. I can't make this up, Val, from Sam Jones. And he had already died. He had died like 9 months earlier, maybe, or something like that. Matt, I'm telling you, we parked the car. We got out and started working. My phone buzzes. I looked on, and it's from Sam Jones. And what had happened was his daughter was inviting everyone to a deal here for his Jacksonville. You know, he had lived here, and he had a lot of people that loved him, especially when Gladys died. He just had a lot of people that loved him. Anyways, how about that? How about that? And I mean, I just like, you gotta be kidding me. Sam Jones.
And where you were at the time.
Yeah. Oh, it was perfect. Yeah, it was perfect. What was the question?
Well, we hit it. Basketball, who's the GOAT? You said Jordan. Somehow we got to Sam Jones sending you a text from beyond.
Because his era. You know, if Jordan would have played in Sam Jones's era, there were what, 8 teams?
Yeah.
So, back then you were the elite of the elitist. You know, there were very few teams even to play on.
Yeah, that's true.
So it just, I just think Jordan because of that reason.
Coach, I just want to thank you, first of all.
Always.
Just so much for giving up your time, because I know this time of year how busy you are and how many things you've got going on. You are one of my favorite people. So to have this time with you is, to me, priceless, and I'm just honored by it.
Well, I love you, and I really, really, really respect everything in that book. If people want to know that, and I try to explain that to people, like, you have no idea, right? Like I think one of the greatest stories in the book is the story about the uniforms. And when I was at Valpo, and the uniforms came in the summer, of course, and I knew, to me, it was another uniform.
Yeah. To
coach, it was like, $500 for the shorts, $500 for the top. The guy's in Italy, it's handmade. To coach, it was a big deal. And so when we got to Baylor,
here's a spoiled kid who.
No. We get to Baylor, and it's game shorts, cut off gray T-shirts for the first practice. We ain't got no gear.
Yeah.
And coach is like, we got to do it. Like, we're getting them the best uniforms, and we're going to try to do this and whatever. And then to read in your book that, I can't remember how you phrased it because I don't want to disrespect the company, but I think you said Nike and Adidas didn't want to have anything to do, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. We couldn't even get one of the big brands to sponsor us.
Oh, is that how you said it? I apologize, Nike and Adidas. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, I get it, obviously now on the other side of it, but in that moment where it just felt like everything was different or everything was being taken away, here's just and we didn't have our names on the back, which, like, I love the idea of obviously playing for the name on the front. And I feel like I had done that, but then there does come in this idea of, like, I earned the right to have my name on the back. I had it on before. And then all of a sudden we don't. It's like, man, like, is everything just so different and gone? But that it was, and I've told Coach Drew this, I've told this, like, nothing that you guys were doing was wrong or bad. It's just the way that my mind or my eyes were looking at everything. It was just with a jaded view. And so, I mean, you could be doing anything right, and I was going to find a problem with it at that time.
It's funny you talk about that, and then they take away our preseason when Curtis and those guys were freshmen.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, okay, so what are we going to do for, let's say, 100 practices? Like, what are we going to do? And then the Big 12 was so kind. They gave us a bye week the first week. And like January 11th, I know that's right. That was the first game, Texas Tech. And like, no one, like, so you're like, okay, let me call. Okay, what did you do? Oh, nobody's ever done it before. Oh, nobody's. So you're like, like, you have no clue what you're doing, right?
Right.
But here's how good God is. Fast forward to what? COVID. What happened during COVID? We didn't play until December 1st or whenever it was.
Yeah.
You got these dudes for like, start of school all the way through, 2 guys at a time. And, and I told all the guys, Coach Mills, I told all those guys, like we know what it's like.
We've done this.
Yeah, we've done this. We know what it's like to be different.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows? I love you.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.